Hello and welcome to another tutorial, this one on Boston Mess, the trick that you'll see me doing right here, doing some slight variations of as well, but you know, there's all sorts of cool stuff you could do with this trick. A tutorial was requested by a valued member of my community, Truth Speller, who, thank you for your continued support and involvement in the community, and he was asking about this Boston Mess trick, so I wanted to put together a quick little tutorial for, well, you in particular, Truth Speller, but also anyone else who might be trying to learn out there. We're going to start at the best place, with a single ball. These are a lot like the practices that you would use for learning Mills Mess. Really, when it comes down to it, both of those tricks rely on the same understanding of how to cross and uncross your hands, and be comfortable having your hands on either sides of your body, regardless of which one's on top or not. So, to start with, I would recommend just one ball up from your dominant hand, cross over, cross back, cross over, cross back. And you'll want to practice having a different hand on top and a different hand underneath each time as soon as you feel able to. And then once this is getting familiar, you'll move to the other hand and repeat. Now this is a columns trick, so you want the ball to stay as vertical as possible. You don't want a whole lot of horizontal movement. It's going to make it much more difficult as you start adding balls into the pattern. So if you find that you're not getting that nice straight up and down throw, keep practicing with one until it starts getting really, really solid, because you're just going to make your life more difficult by adding in more balls before you've solidified it. That being said, when you're ready for two, you're going to start practicing like you're just doing a regular columns trick. So, right, you've got this columns trick. Okay, this is probably one that you've learned. It's one of the first that a lot of people learn. So if you aren't familiar with this yet, this is a great place to start. Just going up and down with two hands. There's also the async version of this, where instead of throwing at the same time, you go 1, 2. As soon as you've got all of that wrapped up and you're seeing your throws nice and solid, you can move into crossing your hands. The thing that I would suggest is you use the async columns if it feels better to you, or use the columns that are in sync together if that feels more comfortable. So you can do this, right? And you can switch which hand's going underneath, or you could do this variation. I personally find the async to be much easier, but you may find that it's easier for you to do them synchronized. Either way is fine. Really, the goal of all these exercises is, again, just to get you used to having your hands crossed and familiar with the way that your body needs to work when you have them in that position. Throwing with a hand underneath another one is different than just throwing in the open. You've got a stop. So it's really just about getting in there and getting familiar with it until it's just not a big deal to you anymore. So just keep practicing right here. Switch which hand's on top, which hand throws first. You're going to need all of these when you move into 3, which I will show you now. First step, we're not even going to cross our hands yet. If you are not familiar with doing an asynchronous column, then I would start there. That looks like this. This is basically the Boston Mess, right? The only difference is I'm not crossing my hands. So you're going to want to be really comfortable just doing this before you start making it more complicated. Once this is locked in, I suggest you start like this, and we're going to just go for 3 throws and getting our hand crossed once. So it'll be 1, 2, 3. You're going to catch with your dominant hand moving over the top of your non-dominant hand. 1, 2, 3. Okay? I actually did 4 there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 4. I just showed you that once. I'll show you again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Now I'm making a catch with the hand that's underneath. And now we're about halfway into the trick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Still with me? We're going to kick it up to 5 now. This is going to add an extra throw. And this is probably the most difficult step of the trick in a lot of ways, because you're now doing a throw here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is a little bit awkward, right? Your right hand has to, or your dominant hand has to come back and grab over here. It's a bit weird. It's okay. You'll get used to it. And it's a good practice anyways, because you're going to want to be able to make those sorts of catches for doing tricks like this, right? So It's worth doing. Anyways, we're going to go for the full 6 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just go for that. Get confident, comfortable there. And now you're actually only doing half of the Boston mess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Haha, there's the 6th one. Once you get to that point, it's time to start crossing the other way, and you can do that in the exact same way that you started the dominant version, but this time instead of having your right hand go over the top, you're going to have your right hand go underneath. Actually, you should start probably in your left hand. That gets weird trying to do it that way. Never thought about that. That's interesting. Anyways, the full Boston mess is going to look like this. And one thing to note is that there is a reset throw in the middle. So you go through a full 3 throws of this asynchronous columns to get into the rest of the Boston mess. The reason for that is that the balls aren't in the right places and your hands aren't in the right places, so you kind of have to do a pass there without, unless you're going to do something tricky and then it starts getting weird. It's doable, but you start doing like crosses of your hands and stuff, or you have to do a throw that's twice as high so your hands have more time to move. Long story short, that's the advanced version. Don't worry about that yet. Just plan on having a brief break of this separated columns or asynchronous columns in the middle of your Boston mess. Anyways, I hope that will be helpful to you. I hope you'll come see another tutorial, another video with me again soon. Maybe subscribe to me, come hang out. Truth Spellers here.